Yo, what's going on, Figure Fiends? It's your boy, Mr. Action, back at you with another episode of Packed In Action Figure Reviews, where we give you that action that's packed in. And on today's episode, we are going to be taking a look at the Marvel Legends series Gamerverse Juggernaut, based off of the Marvel vs. Capcom 2 video game. And I was super excited when I saw the announcement on the Hasbro Pulse, and I saw that we were going to be getting a brand new, updated, brand new body Juggernaut, as Juggernaut is actually one of my very favorite characters from the X-Men team. So I was super excited when I happened to stumble across this guy at GameStop. I was actually in line and there was a guy in front of me who actually had the same name as me, and guess what? He was actually buying the same figure. So I took that as my sign for confirmation to get this guy, and so we're gonna go ahead and take a look at him and see what we're working with. And ladies and gentlemen, here we have Kane Marco, also known as the Juggernaut, right out of the packaging. And Hasbro definitely understood the assignment. They did not miss, as they executed and gave us an exceptional figure that I honestly think is going to be on a lot of people's top 10 Marvel Legends, or even action figures for that matter, for the year 2025. And just taking a look at this guy, it's very easy to understand why that is. One of the first things that I noticed with this Juggernaut is his overwhelming size, and I am very happy with that, as we do know that these figures are actually based off of the Marvel vs. Capcom 2 video game, and if you've played that game, you know Juggernaut takes up like half of the screen. So I am really happy that they were able to really capture that, and I'm also happy with the new updated body that they decided to give us. This is a new Juggernaut that has been reworked from the ground up. I absolutely love the previous Juggernaut that we had that was a part of the Colossus 2-pack, but taking a look at this guy, you can definitely see that this is a major upgrade. And you know, enough chit chat, we're gonna go ahead and take a closer look at this guy and see what he's really about. So without further ado, let's get active. So first things first, jumping in and starting off with the overall aesthetics of this figure. This Juggernaut is a big boy, as he is perhaps the biggest Juggernaut from Hasbro that has been released this far. And if we were to take a quick measurement of him, he does stand at about 9 inches and some change. So he is quite the big boy, as he is going to be based off of the Marvel vs. Capcom 2 video game. And as I stated earlier, if you do main the Juggernaut as your character, you do know that he does take up like half of the screen. So the fact that we were able to capture, you know, the size on this Juggernaut, shout outs to Hasbro for definitely really killing that. The next thing I do want to go ahead and take a look at is the overall sculpt of this guy, man, and Hasbro really did knock it out of the park. First things first here, starting off with the head sculpt. I really do like the direction that Hasbro went with the head sculpt, as I do find that the head sculpt underneath the mask is very detailed. If we take a closer look, we see that the teeth in there are a very nice set of white, pearly whites in there, and then he also does have some nice painted blue eyes underneath there, which I do believe is the digital print. And you know, again, I really do like this alternative look, as the previous Juggernaut head sculpt that we had, it was more of a darker look with the whited out eyes, which is a very cool look. But to see that, you know, we do have this as a option if you do want to do a head swap, which is possible, and we will talk about that further. That is something that you can do. And then just taking a look at the rest of the mask, man, we do see that he does have the indentations in there for his barrel bridge and everything like that. And then we also do have the rivets that we know that a Juggernaut is known to being having. And then over here, taking a look at the rest of the body, taking a look at the chest, we do see that there is some nice muscular definition in there. And then he also does have some nice painted shading in there in the chest to kind of help bring out the definition. Then moving down here to the mid torso of the figure, this is perhaps my favorite portion of the Juggernaut, as it is very nicely textured and it does break up the figure quite a bit, and it does kind of give it a premium feel. I do like how they still have the classic lines inside the abdominals for, you know, the Juggernaut here. I do wish that we could have had a little bit of black wash paint in there to kind of help bring out the details just in those lines specifically, but with the texture and how deep the lines are inside of that texture, it's actually really not needed. As we take a look at the side of the figure, we do have Juggernaut Juggernaut with these nice big beefy arms, and he wouldn't be the Juggernaut if he didn't have them. I do like the muscular definition in there, along with the nice added detail of the veins in there. So you know, he does have some really nice vein work as it does move down here over into the fist. And then he also has nice small details here, like, you know, these white portion here on his thumbs, and then he also has some chip nails in there too as well. So the small details in this figure actually went quite the long way to make this figure really stand out. And then moving here to the bottom of the portion figure, we do see that the wrinkle work does continue even up here on the upper portion of his waistline, which I think is a nice added detail there. And then it also does continue here on the upper ball joints of his upper thighs, which I do like the consistency, man. I do like the fact that, you know, most of the body you are going to see wrinkles, and you know, you even see it here on the side of the pants and even here on the back. So you know, he's still a muscular guy. You can still see the muscular definition, but you can still see that he's wearing pants. And lastly, he also has these nice treads on the bottom of his boots, and Hasbro really didn't miss with this one. I felt like Hasbro said, you know, how can we make a figure that is really going to get the people rallied up? And I think that this Juggernaut that they gave us really did. So this is a very nicely sculpted Juggernaut, and I am happy that Hasbro went back to the drawing board and gave us basically a brand new Juggernaut, and I think it came out really well. Now moving along over into the articulation, this is where the figure is going to be a hit or a miss for a lot of people, but let's go ahead and take a closer look and I'll let you guys be the judge. Now starting off with the head, of course, due to the design of the character, you're not going to get the best range of motion with this guy. So as far as looking up, this is as far as you're going to get it. So from a side profile view, that's how he's looking, and then as far as looking down, that's about as far looking down as you're going to get. So not the best range of motion there. And then as far as looking left to right, his head is on a swivel, so you can get that left and right motion with no problem at all. Unfortunately, due to the design of the mask, you aren't really going to get any pivots with the side to side motion. Then moving here to the arms of the body, you can get his arms to go around 360 degrees. You also can get his arm to go out this far, which does allow you to get that nice T-man pose. He also does have he also does have bicep swivel, which you can get to spin 360 degrees, but he is pretty bulky at the shoulder, so that is going to be some resistance to trying to get that clearance. Then coming over here to the side, he does have these really nice deep butterfly joints, which can go far, quite the far reach back, so you can get some nice range motion there. And then as far as bringing his arms forward, you're not gonna get no, you know, thunderclap with Hulk action, but you can get his arms coming up pretty close. So I do like the articulation there. Those butterfly joints really do add a lot to the figure. Then as far as the elbows, he does have single jointed elbows, which unfortunately they don't get that 90-degree, but I still think, you know, you still get a pretty good bend on there. You know, he is a pretty big dude, so I'm not really expecting too much, but it is pretty close to a 90-degree angle. And then he also does have the forearm swivel, so you can swivel it this way, left and right. And then he also does have the fist on the hinges, which can bend up this much, and then he can get it to bend back as well. So very good articulation there. Then coming down to the diaphragm, we do have 360 degrees rotation, but I do find that when I do twist this figure, there does seem to be a little bit of resistance that makes the figure kind of want to pop back in place. So it is a little bit frustrating, but you are going to have to be a little patient and work with that a little bit. And as far as his pivots going side to side, you also do get some really nice deep crunches in there. So I do like that articulation and the ab crunch. If you want to see how he looks crunching forward, this is about as far crunching forward as he's going to get. So pretty nice articulation. And as far as going back, he is going to be about that far back. Unfortunately, we don't have any waist articulation, but moving down over here to the legs, he can kick up this high. And as far as hitting the splits, you know, I wasn't expecting him to be this flexible, but he could hit the splits on you. Then coming down over here, he does have a thigh cut, which is really nice. And then he also does have a knee cut over here. Since we don't have any boot cut, he does have single jointed knees, which is a bit of a bummer. Would have been nice to have a little bit more than, you know, this less than 90-degree angle here, unfortunately. And then as far as the legs, he does have ankle pivot, which does go side to side. He also does have the hinges, which does go this far down. It does come this far up, and then he also does have these toe hinges, which really does help add to the stability and the overall articulation. So all in all, you know, I know a lot of people's biggest complaint with this figure was perhaps the articulation, but if you really know how to experiment with your figures, man, you can actually get a lot of poses out of it straight out the box. Now moving right along over into the accessories department, starting off with this blast effect piece here. I am really happy that Hasbro went ahead and decided that they were going to add this into there, as this piece is something that is reminiscent of the game, but I do like the detail on there. We do have some darker orange, which does go into some brighter orange, and it is a translucent plastic, so you are going to be able to see through it. So I really do like the detail in there. And then we also do have the rivets on the side where you do plug it into the holes on the side of his fist. And then along with that, he also does come with these other additional hands. Here we have a open grasp hand, and I do like the detail in there. Similar to the other hands, we do have like the little white portion of the nail in there, so it does add a little bit of realism. And then he also does have some chip nails there as well. So one hand is a grasping hand, and then the other hand is more like a gripping hand, and the same detail is there, you know, with the white and the chipped nails and everything like that, and even some more vein work on the hand. So I think that Hasbro did a really good job. I do wish that we would have gotten additional head sculpt similar to how we had it with the previous Juggernaut, but the good news is that if you still held on to your Juggernaut from your Colossus 2-pack, you could actually use these and do some very nice head swap. So if you prefer this look of the Juggernaut with the whited out eyes, and you know, he just has that more of a possessed look, you can definitely add that onto the newer Juggernaut body, and he would look a little bit something like this. And if you did want to have the unmasked head sculpt, you can also do that too with this Juggernaut. I will admit though that the head on the body does look a little bit small, but I still think that it works, especially if you go ahead and you add on the battle damage max piece, which really does add a lot to the figure. So with the head mask and the unmasked look, he'd look a little something like this. And for what it's worth, I do like that these pieces from the previous Juggernaut does work on this newer version of this Juggernaut, as it does give us some versatility and some more options. So with the overall amount of accessories, I'm still happy that we got what we got. Now jumping over into some size comparisons, I could not pass up the opportunity other than to talk about the previous Marvel Legends Juggernaut that we did get, that was a part of that 2-pack that did include Colossus. And as you guys can see, the size difference is definitely there, as the Gamerverse does tower slightly a little bit over the previous Marvel Legends. I'd say roughly about an inch. I don't have my ruler on me, so forgive me for that. But I can definitely say that the older Juggernaut still does hold up, and in certain places it does actually perform a little bit better in the articulation department, and we're gonna go ahead and take a look at that. So if we do take a look at the previous Juggernaut, we do see that, you know, unlike the newer Juggernaut, which does have the diaphragm articulated waist, we do here have just the ab crunch, which does allow us to get a very deep crunch. So with this Juggernaut, you are gonna able to get him to bend as such, but with this newer Juggernaut now, unfortunately, since we don't have that ab crunch there anymore, and since we just have the diaphragm, you know, the most you are going to get the crunch is like that. So if I can show you guys a side to side difference, you can definitely see that the previous one, you know, has the deeper crunch, and then this one, you know, the crunch is not as good as it should be. But if you do bend the leg a little bit in with the articulation, you do get, you know, allow him to bend a little bit further. But that is just something to point out. That is something that, you know, I do really enjoy about the previous Marvel Legends Juggernaut. You know, you were able to get that deep crunch But you know, unfortunately you can't get that pivot, so it is a bit of a trade-off, but just something to note. And of course, you know, I couldn't talk about the previous Marvel Legends Juggernaut without talking about the holy grail of the Juggernaut figures, which a lot of people consider to be the Marvel Select version of the character, and for many reasons I can most definitely understand and see why. Obviously, taking a look at both of these characters, you can definitely see the influences there, but one of the things that I did want to mention was the size of the Juggernaut for the Gamerverse. And we do have to understand that Marvel Legends is based on a 6-inch scale, and Marvel Select is actually based off 7-inch scale. So to see that we have a 6-inch figure that is bigger than a 7-inch scale figure, man, you know, to me that just really goes to show you, you know, how big, you know, this new Juggernaut is. Now, as much as I do like the Marvel Select, one of the downsides of this figure was the articulation department, and we're gonna see that mainly here with the wrist. Unfortunately, there is no separate wrist rotation, so you can't get that to twist or anything like that, or bend, so it is very limited there. And then also here in the abdominals, unfortunately, you know, from a side profile, you know, you're really not gonna get really any bend there, so you know, that was kind of pointless to add that there. And then as far as the legs go, you know, unfortunately, while he does have the pivots where you can go side and side, and while he does have the boot rotation, for some reason or the other they decided that they weren't going to give this figure any hinges, so you can't hinge his boot down or up, which is very unfortunate. You know, considering, you know, the size of this figure, it would have definitely brought this figure, you know, up a lot of points, because the sculpt and the paint work on this figure is really good. So there's your comparison for that. So, after all is said and done, Hasbro definitely put their foot in the pot, and they gave us a very flavorful figure that I think a lot of us are really going to enjoy. From a brand new sculpt that completely redesigns the figure, I am very happy to see that Hasbro decided to use brand new parts, as I do feel like Juggernaut most definitely needed it, especially if they were going to capture, you know, that size that he is in Marvel vs. Capcom 2, and I really definitely feel like they did a hell of a job with that, man. That being said, on the flip side, one of the main concerns or issues with this figure was the articulation, and that is a understandable issue to be had. But I think that regardless of those issues, I think that, you know, the articulation that we have works. You know what I'm saying? You're not gonna get, you know, the most deepest of crunches and stuff like that of that matter, but as you guys can see, we can really get this Juggernaut running in some really nice poses. And you know, if you want to get a little bit more stability, you might have to use a stand here and there, but judging by the size of this figure, it wasn't going to be needed one way or the other. Overall, if I had to give this figure a score, I would give it a 9.5, man. The articulation does make it slightly short of perfection, but apart from that, I think this is a very phenomenal figure that you are going to enjoy in your collection. So with that being said, thanks for checking out another episode of Packed In Action Figure Reviews, where we give you that action that's packed in. If you like the content that you've seen on this channel so far, please do me a huge favor by liking and subscribe, as it tremendously helps out my channel and the YouTube algorithm. I would greatly appreciate it. You guys have a good one. Stay packed in.